Welcome back, traders. I'm Brianna Valesky on Pre-Market Prep here with Joel L. Kahn, and we have Greg Harmon on the line. He's the CIO and partner at Presidium Capital, as well as the founder of Dragonfly Capital. Greg, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, Brianna. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. So, we have to talk about oil. Tomorrow morning, we have a huge oil segment on the show. It's got Doug Cass, Dennis Gartman, Ron Insana, but everybody wants to know. I mean, is oil going to continue falling? What are your thoughts?
Well, it's interesting because I don't trade oil, but I look at oil as an indicator. And looking at a very long chart, say a monthly chart on this, it's sitting after this fall right at the rising trend line that's been in place since 1999. It bounced there last month, and it's been holding up pretty well. So I think it's a valid question to ask: is it going to continue to fall, or is it done? This is the spot where it's make it or break it, where it's going to tell you what it's going to do next. When I look at it, it fell out of a nice pattern, a symmetrical triangle from 2011 to 2014 down to the target area in the low 50s. But it's also got a harmonic pattern that says it could go down as low as the 28, 29 level. So the next couple of months, I think, is really what's going to tell you whether this is the bottom or whether this is just a bear flag being created here as some stability continues.
So how do you play it? I mean, you got the identifiable bottom here. Are you trying to play it with some individual equities here, or are you just strictly using it as an indicator?
Well, the commodity itself I use as an indicator, but what's been interesting is that some oil companies have been diverging and have been bouncing up. Maybe they're just going to be little dead cat bounces, but there have been some opportunities there. So I've taken some small positions in some large cap oil names and put 1-by-2 call spreads around them. So essentially like selling a covered call and then adding a call spread alongside to kind of leverage any bounce that happens.
And could you give us one of those issues that you did do that in, and then give us the specific calls that you did, call spreads?
Well, there's one that I have on now in Oxy Petroleum. It's been hovering right around $80 and moving up. And with the expiration of my February trade on that last Friday, I added just this week a March 80, 81.5, 82.5, 1-by-2 call spread against the position, so that if it gets up to 81.5 by the end of March, somewhere in that time frame, I'll make like an extra $3 on the stock.
Okay, 1-by-2. Could you just explain that? You're buying one of the.
Sure.
Yep. Go ahead.
So in a 1-by-2, I'm buying one call, and that's part of a call spread. So I bought the 81.5 call for March, and I sold the 82.5. Sorry, I bought the 80 call for March, and I sold the 81.5 call against it to create a $1.5 call spread. But then the two part of it is I'm also selling another call because I'm long the stock. I'm selling a covered call against the stock as well, up at the 82.5 strike.
Okay, so you're locked into profits, and then you still have some downside in the issue, right? I mean, if you falls, but below those strikes.
Yeah, of course I got a stop loss on it, and if it keeps falling, I will, or reverses lower, I'll get out of the stock.
Okay, the indexes here, moving on. S&P's tight ranges here, but just crawling higher. Low volatility usually is indicates a continuation of the trend. Anything you're seeing that makes you a little worried about? Let's just start with the S&P.
No, I think that actually the S&P and the Qs and the IWM, all three of them, had been in kind of a consolidation range for the last month or so of the year and the first month of this year. The IWM obviously a lot longer than that, for more like a year and a half. But all of them seem to be now starting to grind to the upside. What I hear a lot about, though, is the transports being lagging behind. And if you look at the transports, since 2012, they've been moving up nice and steady, running on all cylinders, purring like a kitty. And when we hit this little soft patch now, all it's really doing is moving sideways. So maybe it's just a rotation out of the transports and into things that are more attuned to the S&P and outside of the transports, and the smaller caps in the Russell.
Okay, moving on here, we've had some individual stocks in the casual dining area just taking off here. Big run in Mickey D's yesterday. What you call it? Something like Jack in the Box. It had the good earnings and it's running. Where do you take profits to this thing, or do you just move your sell stop up?
I think you just move your sell stop up. The burger portfolio, I like to call it. Yeah, Jack in the Box, Denny's, Sonic, what's another one there? Wendy's, and then one that I'm looking at today. I just wrote about last night, Ruby Tuesday. These stocks they come out, they get hit for about 10 seconds on earnings, and then they're back up 15%. I was trying to buy Denny's on earnings at $1.50 lower, missed by 4 cents, and was back up 15% the next day.
How would you play this Ruby Tuesday here? Lower price stock. It looks like you're getting some nice resistance here. Are you gonna just buy it ahead of a breakout, or are you gonna wait for it to actually break out?
Well, you could, if you're going to play the stock, I'd say wait for the breakout, let it confirm that it's actually going to move. But what I saw is that in the options here, the April 6.5 option or April 7 calls cost 25 cents. Maybe that's a lot relative to the price of the stock, but 25 cents for 10 calls is not going to be a whole lot to play the upside if you want to do it in a defined risk way.
Yeah, and it looks like you got a nice gap to fill up to the 7. Maybe get some shorts squeeze in there. Let's talk about the brokerage industry here, and online brokers looking good. Let's start with TD Ameritrade.
Yeah, TD Ameritrade is an interesting one because it's looked good a few times over the last year. If you scale back to, say, like the March time frame, it built a harmonic shark pattern almost perfectly to the top level at around 37 as it hit there towards the end of November. Pulled back 50%. Which is like a perfect pullback, and now is moving back higher and retesting the highs. I think that that one breaks through 37. You can just ride that, maybe for another $4 higher.
And another one, same sector, Interactive Brokers, IBKR. They seem to have kind of avoided that whole fallout there with the FXCM here. Nice looking, yeah. I mean, that nice. I think they hit it a little bit on that, and then it's just been straight up here. You have any profit targets at Interactive Brokers?
Yeah, Interactive Brokers went red for one day off of that FXCM virtual collapse and bankruptcy, but bounced right back into new highs 2 days later. This stock's been consolidating between 31.5 and 33. It's got a larger measured move higher up to about 36, but maybe stalls in the 34.5 range in the midterm.
Okay, and also E-Trade Financial, is that something on your radar?
E-Trade's on the radar. E-Trade keeps going higher as well. Moved out of a good base over 25 earlier this month and is now creeping higher. If you look at that, that's probably got another $3 in it up to 28 or 29.
We have you on right here at the open, and I know you're not like a super active day trader. You have a lot of positions that you're managing. Could you just, if we were sitting at your desk right now and, watching the markets open, a lot of activity off the open, what's the first thing you look at? I mean, obviously, I'm glued on the S&Ps quite a bit, some of the stocks we talked about on the show. What do you look for here in the first few minutes of trading?
Well, sure. So, like all your listeners know, it's pre-market activity. So I'm checking all the positions and how they may or may not move in the pre-market. Some of them are liquid enough that there's some activity, and some is just not. But specifically what I will look at is stocks that have reported earnings that I hold either the night before or that morning. So one that I'm looking at today is Bud, Anheuser-Busch. That I hold some call spreads, and in the pre-market it was just kind of flat, and now it's up about $3 once we've opened up here. So the spreads are looking pretty good.
Okay, and so is it like through the strikes that you have? So basically, you can ring the register, or do you still have a little bit more upside to go?
I've got some more upside, but Budweiser has a monthly call, so it's not out till they're not up till March, so there's still a lot of time value in them. People that trade options would know then that with all the time value left in them, it's going to be a bit away from the intrinsic value in the spread. So I have 120, 125 call spreads. They're not going to. They should be worth about 450 if it was just intrinsic with a little bit of time value, but there's a lot of time value, so we've got a little bit of time left to deal with these.
It isn't it though. I mean, can't you cash it out at max profit?
Well, I could get probably about 350 for them about now.
Huh. Wow.
Trying to look at them now.
Okay. Let's move on to Rig had earnings. Okay. Let's take a look at RIG here. And, boy, had to pop off earnings, but, boy, giving it all back here. Is Rig something that you follow?
Rig is something that was on my potential list this weekend, but I didn't get into it. Beaten up stock, taking the hit with oil all through the last 6 months. ATW Atwood Oceanics is one that I had tried to play last week, and it just didn't come through. Same thing going on here.
Okay. All right. Final thoughts on the market here. S&P showing a little bit of red here. Pre-market low, oh 08 even. Do you have like a warning, any kind of on the downside that would make you think that maybe we're going to get a little correction here? I mean, I'm pretty short term. I'm looking at yesterday's low, 2107 and a quarter. Anything that would trigger a little bit of caution in the S&P 500?
In the ES, if it got below 2100, maybe we get a short-term pullback here, but things look pretty solid here. We've had some established long bases. Pullback there, it wouldn't be a sell point, but it might be a point to look at things to add to your buy list.
And Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the 1-year anniversary of the release of your book. Is that right?
That is correct. Yeah, it's been out about a year now. Sold, I think, if I remember correctly, I think it's about 1 million copies so far.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to drop a link in the chat room for our traders, so if they want to check out your book, Trading Options Using Technical Analysis to Design Winning Trades, so all of our listeners can check that out. We've had Greg Harmon on the line. He's the CIO and partner at Presidium Capital, as well as the founder of Dragonfly Capital. Greg, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We always enjoy your technical analysis.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Okay, Joel, let's take a look at some of our movers today. The first one I really want to touch on is Salesforce. It's looking pretty good after the open.
Yeah, it did, and got an opening pop here. Got up to 71 even. Now, the pre-market high in that was over 71, 71.45. So sellers stepped in a little bit ahead of that. 71 even, a little paper there. Maybe stopped it. Maybe a 1,000 shares sell order or not. But it's hold 69.78 here. Did that in the 15 minutes before the open and did it off the open. So holding in there unless it takes out that double bottom there. And this is only on the 15-minute chart at 69.78.
Let's also take a look. We covered a lot talked a lot about those 3D printing stocks. So how about we take a look at Triple D?
Okay, Triple D. I like when we ask Sheldon. It's like I'm asking him about these stocks, and I look at the chart, and I know he's not going to be interested.
Yeah, I love his honesty. Just straightforward.
Okay, now Double D, where actually Dennis is a Triple D too, because he has a middle name that begins with a D as well. He was on the fade route with this one, and stocks that fall out of favor. He kind of likes. I don't know if he stepped in off the open. We did trade lower in the pre-market. We did trade as low as 30.70 here. Opened up 29.27. Quick dip to the nice whole number, 29. 49.01, and off to the races here. Up, now this thing is green by 50 cents. Kind of little relief rally here. Dennis, if you're still long, 30.89 was yesterday's high, 2-day high up at 31.09.
I think we definitely need to take a look at lumber liquidators.
Okay, I'm thinking this one did not have. I'm not looking at the chart yet, but it was down 25 points yesterday, and then it was up a buck in the pre-market. That's not good. Let's see what happens. Yesterday's low 49.80. What's happening with lumber liquidators here? And the chart is running a little bit slow here, so I will pull it up on my other platform here. Just hanging out. Hanging out here. It's a little bit green here. Let's see if we got to yesterday's low here. Did not get to yesterday's low. 50.83 here. I mean, if you're a brave soul looking for a swing trade here, risk a buck and a half down to that low of 49.80. Monster volume yesterday. We'll see if we can get some of those losses back. But real bad day from yesterday, and I'm sure you have some company if you're trying to sell this thing on the upside.
What about go-go? We were talking a little bit about that, and that's trending right now. People are talking about it.
Talking about it. Okay, the Go-Go's. Remember the Go-Go's?
I do. I actually do. It's a little out of past my time, but you haven't lost me yet.
Okay, all right. We had a nice pop in the pre-market all the way to $20 here. Big run yesterday. Opened up right near the high for the session. Right from the pre-market high was 1896. If you were leaning on that, 1892. Didn't catch it there. We've sold off nearly a buck. Fill the gap from yesterday's trading, 1818. That's the low. Yesterday's high, 1814. Keep an eye on that. If not, we could sink back to the close at 1749.
We can take a look at a couple more earnings, or we can take a look at some of the imbalances. We didn't get to go over them on the show, but Dennis did drop them into the chat room. I see Alibaba, Bank of America, Procter Gamble, Pfizer. Ooh, let's look at Pfizer.
Yeah, Pfizer. Now, I've been looking at this support level. I think there was a small imbalance in Pfizer. I believe it was a small imbalance to the sell side. Let's see if it knocked it down at all. Boom, boom. You would have bought the low of the day if you would have faded that sell imbalance. And unfortunately, it was quite a bit above that support that you had. But fading that 34.47, that was a low tick and rallied up nicely. Trading at the highs for the session, 34.65. Yesterday's high, 34.79. Potential area of resistance.
Another one we can take a look at. Did we ever talk about Aruba Networks, ARUN, and this rumor about a Hewlett-Packard takeover?
No, I think it was mentioned briefly. Boy, this is kind of interesting chart. There may be some validity to this because it is really not giving back the gains. I mean, you did sprint yesterday all the way up to 23.49. You pulled back to 22 here. 22.03 the low, trading mid-range here. I guess if you're holding on to hopes of this being taken over, short-term technical, like to see it hold on to 22.
Another one we can talk about that we were mentioning in the pre-market show is Intel. I know there was some talk about that from Citigroup, I believe. They had some not great comments about it. No ratings changes, but just...
They lowered their price target by a buck, right? Okay. I mean, gap lower, though. The news is affecting it. Opened 30 cents lower, dipped down to 33.43. That took out the two-day low, 33.51. But you're back recovering. I mean, the stock S&P's moving up. Gap between yesterday's low, 33.73, 33.65 here. Look for that to be a little bit of resistance, but could very well shrug off that news. Yesterday's close, 33.94.
Let's, I'm kind of interested in taking a look at LinkedIn because both Sheldon and JC really, really seem to like this stock right now.
Well, JC liked it because he was long it. And Sheldon was looking to get long it. These guys, hey, better man than me buying the breakouts here on these strong stocks. LinkedIn, you are getting some follow through here in today's session. Trading up at 276 high. That takes out the pre-market high. That's a new all-time high for LinkedIn. That you still could have got it on the cheap, kind of off the opened at 272.31. 272 even low, and we have rallied as high as 276. If you're looking for a target on the upside there, LinkedIn, take a look at perhaps the average daily range here. But looks like we got a nice breakout in LinkedIn, and I hope Dennis held on to his Facebook. He was nibbling in that in the pre-market. Dennis or JC was talking about how he likes the social network here, busting out up a $1.24 here. Nice move, Dennis. I hope you held on that one. You didn't take much heat off the open. One tick off the low. And notice, Dennis was taking a little cue from the LinkedIn trading higher to hold on or initiate his long in Facebook. Facebook is getting up here. Let's see if we can find any potential areas of resistance here. 81, nice round number. Keep an eye on 80.96, folks. We've gone to 80.86. 80.96 was your high towards the end of last year, actually on December 29th.
Well, Jill, are we any more? We can look at JCP because we did talk a little bit about that, or I can preview tomorrow's guest. What are you feeling right now?
I just bringing up the JCP. I'm still mad about that bet from Dennis. I usually don't let it bother me too much, but still finding resistance at this $9 area. Didn't quite get to yesterday's high, which was 9.18. Got to 9.07, and taking a look back under 9 here. Kind of did the same thing yesterday. Drifted lower and then kind of rallied back towards the end of the day. So we'll see see if we can get back over 9. Yesterday's high 9.18. I don't think we're going to see that. Yesterday's low 8.75. I don't think we're going to see that either. All right. Well, Brianna, tomorrow's the big day. I know you've been working very hard on this. Got a great lineup of guests. I love the way the crude chart is at least setting up for the show. So why don't you let our listeners know what's in store for them tomorrow?
You got it. Well, we do have another huge show tomorrow. We're going to have Dennis Gartman, editor and publisher of the Gartman Ladder, Ron Insana, CNBC contributor and author of Insana's Market Intelligence, Doug Cass, president of Seabreeze Partners Management, Leonard Weiss, an MLP expert and the senior VP of investments at Weiss Wealth Management, Patrick DeHaan, he's a senior petroleum analyst at Gas Buddy, and Colin Eaton, an energy reporter for the Houston Chronicle. All crude, all during the show. We're going to talk about everything. If it's like the Rockefellers have been divesting billions from crude oil. Warren Buffett pulled out of his oil investments. Our traders need to know if they should do the same. So don't miss this show tomorrow, guys. It's going to be awesome. This is all you have to do is drop a question in the chat. You could have it answered by any of these experts who have been watching it, who have watched the crude oil markets for years, who are watching it now, and who can tell you what's actually going on. Just a final reminder, our show is brought to you by our friends at Nadex, where you can find protection from market spikes and opportunities in flat markets using binary options. Open an account today with no fees and only $100 as your minimum deposit. Tell them your friends at Benzinga sent you. If you miss any part of today's show, you can listen to the whole thing again on our podcast. Find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher by searching hashtag premarket. And please don't forget that all of the information, material, and content in our program is for informational purposes only. Investing in stocks, options, and futures is risky and not suitable for all investors. Please consult your own independent financial advisor before making any investment decisions. Joel, do you have any final words for our traders before we close out the show?
Held yesterday's low, 2107.25, hit 2108. That's a big area on the downside. Approaching mid-range here, 2111.50. So far, that's holding up as a little bit of resistance. Pre-market high 1475, all-time high in the S&P's 2117.75. All right, that's going to wrap things up today. Thanks for joining us. Great input from the chat room. Have a great day. Go to bed early. Get ready for the big oil show tomorrow.